verse 11. I'll read the verse to you. We're going to talk about the Psalm of Thanksgiving tonight. Now, there are several Psalms of Thanksgiving, 7 altogether. There's 118, there's 38, there's 100. So we're going to look at the specific one tonight, but we're going to start at an unusual place because I want you to see exactly what this psalm is all about. Now, I want you to do something else too. We're going to be uniform tonight, so I want you to put your Bible down. I want everybody to get a pew Bible. We're all going to use the New King James Bible tonight. There's not a lot of difference in the verses that we're going to read, so let's just all read uniform tonight. So turn with me to Jude, which is the vestibule to the book of Revelation, and let's read verse 11 together. I'll read it out loud. Say amen when you got it. Jude 11. Woe to them, for they have gone in the way of Cain. They have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and they have perished in the rebellion of Korah. The rebellion of Korah. Now I want you to turn with me over to the book of Numbers. Numbers chapter 11. I want to read a story for you. I don't know if time permits me to read the whole chapter, but we will at least start in verse 20. If I need to go back and read some more, we will. Numbers chapter 11.
What's the page?
What page? Page 165.
I never did it.
You sure you had a black Bible?
I know.
Red one?
165.
Red Bible back there.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm going to write this down. No, I'm sorry. Chapter 16. Chapter 16. Not chapter 11.
16.
Chapter 7 is about the 11 is about the manna. Go to chapter 16.
Page 171.
Thank you.
171. What verse?
It's a long chapter. Let's start in verse 20. Okay? Let me give you the background, okay? The people of God, probably, there's not a fast and hard time frame for when this happened, but according to the scholars I have read, it probably happens when the people of God get to Kadesh Barnea and they turn and go back into the desert. And it seems that this rebellion happened at this particular time, okay? Now Korah is going to lead the rebellion. Korah is a Levite who all of a sudden decides that Moses and Aaron ain't the ones they want to follow anymore, okay? They led a rebellion, and I want you to see what happens here. And so read with me beginning in verse 20 through the conclusion of the chapter. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. Then they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation? So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Now Korah is the leader, but he's got some followers also. Now these people are Levites, okay? Then Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Now understand, he said, you be consumed in their sin, not yours, but theirs, just by being in proximity to what God is about to do in these people's lives. Moses said, By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. These men died naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split apart under them, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up and their households, and all the men with Korah with all of their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into the pit. closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly. And all Israel who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. Now, these were different. These were Levites who all of a sudden had set them up and said, we're going to take over the priestly duties, and we're going to start sending up incense to God, and we're going to follow Korah because she is now, or not she, but he is now our priest. He is our leader. He's set himself up, and we're rejecting Moses and Aaron. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, to pick up the censers out of the blaze. They are holy, and scatter the fire some distance away. The censers of these men who sinned against their own souls, let them be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, because they presented them before the Lord. Therefore they are holy, and they shall be a sign to the children of Israel. So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers, which those who burned up had presented. They were hammered out as a covering on the altar, to be a memorial to the children of Israel, that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should come near to offer incense before the Lord. Now that's an important verse. Near to offer incense before the Lord, that he might not become like Korah and his companions, just as the Lord had said to him through Moses. Now we're going to finish the reading, but I want you to get the gist of what's happening here. Korah is part of the tribe of the Levites. All those people who are following him, they have decided that we're not going to listen to Moses. He's not our priest anymore. He's certainly not going to be, Aaron's not going to be our high priest. And so we rejected them. We're going to set up our own hierarchy. We're going to set up our own worship. We're going to set up our own tents. We're going to set up our own altars of incense. So they stole the altars out of the tabernacle, and they began standing this up. And God said, it ain't happening. I'm going to take care of things. I'm going to make sure that you understand that you don't rebel against God like this. On the next day, all the congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron and said, you've killed the people of the Lord. Now it happened when, I tell you what, let me just stop there, okay? I could go on to the rest of it, but I want you to, but let me stop at verse 41. Here's the people of God. They're following Moses and Aaron because God has put them as the leaders of Israel. They turned back from Kadesh Barnea, which was on the border ready to go to Jordan, but you know their faith would not allow them to do that. So they're gone back into the wilderness. Korah decides that he's going to be the priest. He's going to be the leader of these people, okay? And so God opens up the ground, consumes them right then, takes them out of the picture, and lets them know that things ain't going to be, or things ain't going to be different. They're going to be like they always were. And if you're going to follow me, you're going to follow the people that I have put in place to lead you. But there in verse 41, just as soon as it happens, folks start complaining again. Now let me ask you an intelligent question. You're standing there and you're watching God open the ground up and swallow a bunch of people that was being disobedient. Do you think you'd start griping? I don't think I would. Well, they did. They started griping and said, you done killed all God's people. Now, what kind of picture do we have in relation to this? There's a couple that I want to bring to your attention. You could almost say this is like what the Lord is going to do in the book of Revelation. You know, he's going to bring fire down. He's going to bring judgment on the earth. And what is the devil going to do? He's going to put his own man in the place of the temple, which is going to be the Antichrist and the statue of the Antichrist. You could say this is similar to what just happened. And God's going to take care of that just like he took care of this. But in a modern time, do we have anything like this today? Let me ask you a question before we go on. And we're going to get to the Psalm of Thanksgiving. We're going to read it and talk about it. Let me ask you a question. Does anybody know what it takes to be an ordained preacher? Now, Southern Baptists, you have to go through some little rigmaroles, okay? You're erroneous to believe that you need education to be a Southern Baptist preacher. You're just recognized by your church, you're licensed by your church, and they select an ordination council, you're called by a church, and they question you, and then a bunch of preachers approve you, and then you're ordained, okay? That's how you get to it, and it's a lot of rigmarole. But does anybody have an idea of actually what it takes to be an ordained preacher in the world today? Anybody? Well, let me enlighten you. Go to the back of the Inquirer. Yeah, the Inquirer. And read where you can send off to California a $100 bill and you can get your credentials. Did you know that? And they'll send you your papers back and they'll give you, yeah, you're an ordained preacher. Yeah, right. So at that particular time, you got your credentials and you can just go out and you can declare what you want to be. And you can say, I'm a preacher, follow me, I'll start my church. Let me give you another illustration that's a little more closer to home. Now, and understand there are people that do that today. Okay? There's folks that actually do that. That's where they get their credentials from. Let me bring it a little closer to home. Do you have any idea how many ordained priests there are in the Mormon church? Well, just take the state of Utah. You can Google this. I did the same thing I did. In the state of Utah, there's 30,000 priests who practice polygamy. Okay? Now, where did polygamy come into the Mormon church? Follow me now. Don't leave me, okay? Because I've got a point to make. Where did polygamy come into the church? Well, back in the 1800s, when the Mormons were being persecuted, they fled to Utah, okay? And on the way, to make sure the widows were not ambushed by Indians or killed by strangers, every man was asked, according to Joseph Smith, was told by God to marry these women so they'll be your wife and nobody will bother them. They'll be your wife and their children will be your children. That's where polygamy came into the Mormon church. It has not died out. Now, some branches of the Mormon church do not practice. The fundamentalist Latter-day Saints continue to practice. And if you go to Utah today, you will find 30,000 polygamists. You say, well, preacher, what has that got to do with being a priest? Okay, you do know or you don't know, but you're going to know when I tell you. The Mormons have their own hierarchy set up as far as priesthood. Anybody can become a priest in the Mormon church. Your goal is to live sinless and become a high priest just like Jesus and just like Joseph Smith. Okay? We're not going to open up that can of worms. I don't have time tonight, but follow me, okay? All right. Let's take Utah and let's take all the people that live in polygamy. In the state of Utah, a man can declare that he is a priest of the Mormon church. He can send off and he can get papers and he can make his house a tabernacle. And there his church becomes his non-profit organization house and he has his own built-in congregation. He's got several wives and he's all got children and that becomes his congregation and that becomes his church. Now, somewhere along the line, I think somebody's dropped the ball on priesthood, okay? But here was Korah, who was a Levite, who said, I'm going to be the priest. I'm going to be the leader of the people. But God has said that Moses was going to be, okay? Moses and Aaron. Aaron was going to be the high priest. Moses was going to be the spokesman. And so that's how it all boiled down. And so God destroyed Korah because he exalted himself above and against the way that God wanted things to be done, okay? You can throw around this thing about priests and preachers, and let me tell you something, buddy, there's a lot of people out there that call themselves preachers, okay? You can run around, but if you're going to be a preacher, you ought to be a preacher of an established denomination, and it ought to be done the right way, okay? But that being said, anybody can be a preacher and anybody can be a priest, okay? All right? So, there was Korah, set himself up, ended up being killed, okay? Then, the people of God, after this happened, the people of God sang a song of thanksgiving. Let me, turn with me, if you would, to Psalm 46. I think it's 46, maybe 48, 46. 46. All of that is the backdrop for this particular psalm of thanksgiving. Okay? This is a psalm that was written when God put down the rebellion of the Levite Korah. This is a psalm of thanksgiving. You can apply it to your life today. It's only 11 verses. Let's read it and let's apply it to our situation today. So they're singing praises unto God. They're thanking God for sparing them. Now understand, God said you need to get away from them because I'm going to destroy them. Now there's a message there also that we ought to be careful where we venture when we walk with the Lord, because we can end up as collateral damage. I really believe that can happen. So anyway, here's the psalm of thanksgiving that they sang unto God when God took care of the rebellion of Korah that's mentioned in the book of Jude. Okay, let's read it. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in the times of trouble. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Now that's what happened. They saw the earth being removed right in front of them and said, oh, listen, God is going to sustain us in the midst of all this trouble. We're seeing catastrophes in front of us. Now they probably were reflecting back to the time that God divided the Red Sea and brought them out of their trouble. So it's all connected. But they're reflecting on God's goodness up to this point in their lives, even to the event of the earth taking care of their troublemakers in the face of Korah. And though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, and though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling, Selah means pause and think about what you're reading. There is a river whose stream shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her just at the break of dawn. Now remember what happened. It was right at the time of day when all of this began. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. Now they're recounting everything that happened to the wicked, but God preserved them in the midst of what was going on. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Pause and think about it. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. So, here's what God is saying to us right now. Your life becomes turmoil. All kind of catastrophes happening. Everything's going on around you. That is the very time that you need to stop. You need to pause and you need to be still and know that God is God and that He is in control. You see, you don't think about these things when everything is still around you. But think of the catastrophes and picture in your mind what they were witnessing that day, the earth opening up, and in the midst of all those wicked people being destroyed, they sang out, be still and know that God is in control. Be still right now when everything around you is dissolving. Be still in all the wars and troubles around you and things aren't what they ought to be. When catastrophe strikes your life, when catastrophe strikes the world that you live in, just stop and understand that God is God and He's going to take care of absolutely everything in your life. See, they acknowledged that. And that was the prayer of thanksgiving they was giving. So at Thanksgiving time, that's what I want to tell you tonight. Everybody's got troubles. Some have physical troubles. Some may have family troubles. Some may have financial troubles. But listen, in the midst of everything, just stop and acknowledge that God is God. He hasn't moved. He's still on His throne. He knew these things were going to come and happen around us in our lives. But if we would just stand still and let God take control of the situation, He will handle it in His own way. He says at the end there, be still and know that I'm God. I will be exalted among the nations. And He'll be exalted in your life too if you let Him. I will be exalted in the whole earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Pause and think about this. I'm through. Any questions?
No.
Yes, sir.
I got somebody gave me a plaque, made out of wood and everything, woman does.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, all right. That's good. I
Be
didn't remember
still
the
and
words.
know that I am God.
Yeah, y'all remember that tonight. That's y'all's homework tonight. Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. During this holiday season, just pause, let that verse sink in, and that's what's going to carry you through. Are you through, John? Okay. Anybody else? Thank y'all. Choir practice.